Meeting to order. This is August 12th, 2019, meeting of the ACSD Board. And let's do a quick round of introductions. Davina, if you wouldn't mind kicking it off for us.
Davina Jaymar, Victoria J. Amy McClash, Betty Kapumbe,
Lorraine Morse,
Peter Burrow, Superintendent.
I'm Peter Conlon.
Mary Cullinane, Jen Newcedar, Peg Martin,
Chip Null, Mary Gill, Susan Duff.
Thank you all very much. I know we have some administrators here who will be speaking later, and we'll do some introductions at that point in time. As always, at the beginning of our meeting is a time for public comment. It's an opportunity for folks to state their business to the board and for us to politely listen. Anyway, we'll like to open up that opportunity now for anybody who has a comment. We would just ask that you rise, give us your name, where you're from, before you speak.
My name is Miller Cox, I'm from Ripon, and I just have a question for the board. I wanted to know whether you had actually voted yet on the 6th grade proposal, moving all the 6th grades to mountains. And if not, when do you plan to vote on that and like a written response?
If you stick around, it's coming up on the agenda.
Sure. Okay.
I'm Joanna Doria. I live in Ripton. I wasn't going to say anything, but I was inspired to just sort of reach out and say that the hope on the public end is to sustain this involvement. And I was wondering about your ideas on how to make this a productive, positive civic engagement and what that looks like for you guys. It's not a very specific question, but I just wanted to put that out.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Yeah, my name's Steve Cash from Ripton. I also didn't have a terribly prepared comment, but I look forward to seeing kind of the roles that individual schools can play as you guys move forward with the decisions that need to be made, and just how they can be a part of that process and kind of made aware of what's going on and/or potentially participate in that, both the schools and the people whose children attend those schools. So, thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone else? All right, if not, we'll move forward on our agenda. We have a set of minutes from our July 29th meeting attached to our materials. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
I'll second.
Corrections or comments? I just would like to say I appreciate Suzanne's attempt at kind of a new format with, reads almost like a play. Anyway, appreciate the effort on trying to assign comments to names and really be as specific as possible. That's clearly a fair bit of work.
I appreciate that, since I brought that up last time, and this was a really good effort.
Thank you.
Can I clarify something I said, which I
Yep.
probably said it exactly as it was written, but it's not what I meant to come out of my mouth. So I wanted to emphasize was to keep in mind the moms in the high school in the bonding process, but not to make them like the priority. I think in this quote, it seems like I'm saying that they should be the initial priority for a bond, and that's not quite the way I'm feeling. I feel like just keep it in mind as we're considering bonding in general.
Nothing further. All those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And anybody abstaining? Davina is abstaining. All right. Next on the agenda, the bills.
There are two bills since the last meeting. The first one was on the 5th of August, read by myself and Mary Gill. It's a total of $189,267.04 out of the general funds and payroll expenses of $235,397.09 for payroll, as I said, for a total of $424,664.13. Today, Victoria and I read the bills, and it was a total of $169,285.07 out of the general fund, and payroll expenses of $30,967.24 for a total of $200,252.31. Will we approve, we pay the bills?
Second.
Moved by Chip and seconded by Victoria, that we pay the bills as reported. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right, we are solvent for another couple weeks.
Summer's good, actually.
Yeah, all right. Report of the superintendent. You see we have a few items here?
I've got a few things, yeah. So last week was our retreat, our administrative retreat, and we welcomed 4 new leaders, which was really exciting. Nicole Carter at Weybridge, Matthew Brankman at Bridport, Michaela Whistle at Mary Hogan, and Heather Robb at Cornwall. So this was like a super unique opportunity to have a whole new crew of leaders, and I think it really brought a lot to what is now kind of a new leadership team. I think it was probably our best retreat yet, just in terms of being able to really dig deep into learning and doing a lot of thought and inquiry around our leadership practice, and then spending some time looking at some of the big rocks ahead this year. Our big work this year, which we started in earnest last year, is system of services and looking at the IB framework and how our systems support all students. IB for all is how we're leading all of our work, and so this year is going to be a critical year for really kind of, I think, finishing a lot of that work. We've done work probably over the last 6 years that I've been here. We've done pieces of this work, and I think we are now in a place as an organization to really start to align in a way that's going to really support all of our schools and all of our students. So I'm very excited about that. We are kicking off a new supervision evaluation process to rebuild the manual, and that's going to be beginning soon, which is exciting. I've talked about that for a couple of years to the board, saying we're going to do that next year, and then it kind of keeps getting pushed off. So it is happening this year. I keep saying that out loud so I don't kick it down the road another year. And then this is the final year of authorization for both the middle years program and the primary years program. And middle years is going to happen at the mid-year, and then primary years at the end of the year. So this is our last year of authorization. We'll be having lots of visits from IB folks coming to look at our systems and talk to teachers and administrators and students, and kind of help us get started. So that's really exciting. By the end of this year, we'll be through that process and really in a process of continual learning. I wanted to share something really cool about the business office, and I wrote it down. We received our FY19 fiscal monitoring report from the state recently, and they said, normally the woman who wrote back, normally I wouldn't make comments outside the report. Please know that this visit resulted in the least findings our team has issued in many years, which I thought was pretty incredible. And those that have been around for a long time know that hasn't always been the case. So this is even doubly cool. So good job, Brittany and team. Finally, we've got our Welcome Back event next week. It's shocking that it's already 21st of August and we're getting started. Everybody, all board members are welcome to attend. It's 8 is refreshments, and we start the program at 8:30. So it'd be great if you can attend. I think it's a great opportunity to see staff, to be part of the opening message, and we've got a really cool keynote as well. So I'm not going to tell you more about it. You're going to have to come check it out.
Band?
I'm not sure. We may have a band coming. There's one person in the audience I'm looking at who's trying to hide right now. But we'll see. It may come together, right?
I haven't talked to her.
Good,
Wait,
yeah. We'll have some kind of music. I have a few musicians in my house who I may ask.
Yeah, piano.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there stuff going on before the 21st?
We have a new teacher orientation on the 20th.
How many new
But
teachers?
21st is when everybody comes back.
Yeah. How many new teachers? More or
Uh,
less?
It's much smaller this year.
It's a lot
Yeah.
smaller.
There are a handful of new special educators.
I feel like it's,
I think we've got to keep that somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe 15.
Yeah,
I was gonna say under 20, but,
It's small.
yeah,
Good.
comparatively.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Any questions for the superintendent? All right. Now, carry over from our last meeting, the always exciting propane bid memo.
I can hardly contain myself while writing it. You want me to?
Yes, please.
So if you remember last time, I brought to you what I was prepared, a bid that I had thought we were going to award, but there was some unacceptable clauses in your contract that we weren't able to get changed. So as a result of that, we felt that it was prudent to just rebid and give everyone a chance to rebid under some more stringent criteria. So as part of the bid this time, we asked bidders to send any contracts that we were required to sign. We also required that they would provide us with a certificate of insurance, listing us as additional insured, and provide their service pricing, because we realize that does come into play. Most times, propane vendors won't work on each other's equipment. So we received 3 bids this time. Last time we received 4, this time we received 3. And the 2 low bids were within 1 cent of each other. So if we went with a low bid, we'd save probably about $300 over the course of the year. However, that vendor's service is about $30 more an hour than the next highest propane bidder, which is Fiscal, so Superior Propane and Files. And they also use a third-party vendor to do their service, and Files does their own service. And so when we looked at sort of the balancing act between the price of the propane and what we could potentially pay in service, it seems prudent to award the bid to Files Brothers, given that the $300 savings in propane could pretty easily be eaten up in one service call. So that's my recommendation to the board.
So how about a motion to approve the recommendation for the propane bid to go to Files Brothers?
I'll make that.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion or questions on this?
Should we include the price?
Sure.
That's in the recommended motion.
I'm sorry, I didn't see the recommended motion.
Try to make it easy for you.
Yes, so the motion, Chip, I think you were making was to award the bid for propane to Files Brothers at the pre-buy price per gallon of $1.22 for the 2019-20 school year.
Correct, I hadn't scrolled down enough, so you're right, that's the motion I made.
All right. Anybody have any questions? Did the prices change much between last?
They did, they went down.
They went down?
Yeah.
So it was to our benefit?
They went down almost 10 cents.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Pretty
Let's do this each time.
Yeah, right.
So we should rebid everything all the time.
Right, exactly. They sharpen their pencils.
Yeah.
This is the gentleman that was here last week, the one that we've done for several years.
Yes,
Yeah,
in
Files.
recent memory.
1985, he said.
Long term.
All right, if there's no further questions or discussion, all those in favor of the motion to award the propane bid, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, nay? Anybody abstaining?
No.
Excellent. All right, well, on to our main discussion that we've been having all summer long on the facilities master plan. And I just wanted to kind of review a few things before we move forward here. You'll see 2 action items on here. And we've kind of been going along with this idea that we would kind of by consensus agree that something should go in the plan and then ultimately vote on the plan as a whole unit. I think after our meeting, our previous meeting, I think that has created some ambiguity. I think it's created ambiguity for the board. I think it created some ambiguity for the administration. I think it's created some ambiguity for the public. So as the executive committee, which is the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary, were meeting to come up with the agenda, we kind of talked about this issue and thought that it would kind of be clearer that as we sort of go to include something in the facilities master plan, that we simply have a vote to include it. And so we're a little behind schedule. We've come up with two, the capacity study and the grade configuration, AKA the sixth grade to MUMS issue. And I think maybe for the benefit of folks here, maybe we'll begin with the MUMS, sixth grade to MUMS issue. And before we sort of dive into that, a little bit of history to recall here, because really the facilities master plan and the sixth grade decision became very much intertwined. It's one sort of was driving the other. So if we go back, 3 or 4 years, is when the board and the administration decided to kind of take a deep dive into whether it made sense to move the sixth grade to the middle school. I think that the decline in enrollment at the middle school opened up a lot of that discussion because it was seen as an opportunity to create a 3-grade middle school, which, one, would provide more students with the same level of services and the same level of academics, that it would be more aligned with International Baccalaureate as we went that way, because the middle years program really begins at 6, goes to 10 in terms of grades. So a deep dive was taken sort of on the administrative and educational level to look at it from those terms. And while at the same time, so there was sort of a public process where Peter and others went out and spoke with folks in the public about moving sixth grade and the thoughts on it. And so those who were sort of tasked to study it in some serious educational detail came out with a recommendation to say that yes, we think from an educational point of view that it does make sense to create a 3-grade middle school, for the reasons that we've discussed frequently. The superintendent, when he brought the whole thing back after all of the public participation, and if I'm stating this wrong, please correct me, came back to the board with an opinion that said, we believe educationally this makes a lot of sense, but we were looking at it in isolation. We were looking at it strictly as an educational matter and not really looking at it in terms of what's the impact, especially on our smaller schools. And that really led to the idea of a facilities master plan, because the impact of moving sixth graders to the middle school would then have a cascading impact on all of our smaller schools. It seemed like a more thoughtful way to move forward with this by doing it within the context of a greater look at our schools, our capacity, and within the context of what we're working on now, which is the facilities master plan. And I realize this is a bit of rehashed history that most of you are very well set on, but I just wanted to sort of put that out there to re-ground us as to how we got to be where we are. So, several meetings ago, we talked about this. We went around the table. There appeared to be strong consensus that the sixth grade question, moving the sixth grade to the middle school, should be part of our vision and our plan, which is the facilities master plan. Definitely heard from the board. They would like to talk about it a little bit more, like to hear a little bit more about it from our administrators as well. And so that's part of tonight's agenda as well, is to hear more about it. And then to move on to saying, having a vote that says, okay, yes, we want this to be part of the facilities master plan. I think we'll hear from our administrators that, they can't give us soup to nuts all the details of exactly how it would work, because that's really going to take this next several months, 6, 12 months, I don't know, that's really up to them to decide, but to really figure out how it works and what it's going to look like. But we certainly need to make sure that they're clear as to what our intentions are going forward. So I think with that, I'd like to turn it over to the superintendent and the principal of the middle school and anybody else who's weighing in on this to sort of give us their vision of how it is so we can think about our vision of how it is. Great.
Peter, can I just ask one question relative to voting on things that we plan to put in something that we'll vote on at some point? Okay, the assumption being that if all of us vote to put that type, whatever the topic is, in, that in fact, we are the same body that's voting at some point in the future.
Yep.
That we agree. In the hypothetical situation where in fact that doesn't happen, meaning there are different members of this board, all right, you could conceivably vote down because something is in it, okay? I'm just making that as a hypothetical, because it's not, I mean, I know it's organized,
Yeah.
and it makes sense to me to do what we're doing, but in actual fact, it depends on,
Well, I guess I would say to that, you know, it'll be us who's voting on the facilities master plan, hopefully in September.
right.
But the future actions, we have no control over, just like we have no control over any future government actions, but yes, point well taken. Yes.
Okay. Well, I invited Chris Frankor and Amy Pyfrom to come and share a little bit about the work. They were both part of the 2017 study and have worked to, I think, create a vision for the board to kind of hear a little bit more detail about what the sixth grade at MOMS would look like. As Peter said, I think it's important to also state that this has to be built with staff at MOMS, so I would never support providing the board with a really outlined teaming structure, for example, and then just implementing that without having it be a collective process with everybody. So that is the intention, you know, if this does happen, that Chris works integrally with MOMS staff to create something that is ideal with the resources that we have.
Great. So to give a little more background than Peter did, thank you, Peter, though, for the background. The MYP and PYP design teams in 2016, members of those teams unanimously agreed that they felt it was in the best interest of our sixth graders in this district to move to MOMS. What they didn't say at the time was exactly when and exactly how. And so that, to me, as the principal of the middle school, and believe me, from my incredible group of students, was important to me that that was a unanimous decision of a lot of people that actually went into the conversation going, I don't know if I really believe in this, and came through with the idea that sixth graders, if you hang out with sixth graders, they are very much middle schoolers. And really, to me, the biggest piece was that in moving our sixth graders to MOMS, it means that all of them had the same equitable, equity-based opportunities, as opposed to right now, we see every day the variety of opportunities and educational experiences that our sixth grade students have had out in their amazing schools, but trying to bring some consistency to that. At the time that the design teams worked on this, there were two models put forward as most likely possible models for the sixth grade moving to MOMS. One being, and these were based upon MYP programs we saw around the country, one being a self-contained sixth grade at MOMS, keeping looping 7th and 8th grade teams as we have now, or a team at each grade level. But that the sixth grade would come in, all the schools, all the sending counts or students would come in, they would have very, very similar experiences, but they would be in a sixth grade group, and then 7th, 8th grade would loop, meaning they would have the same group of students and teachers for 2 years. That was one of the proposed models. The second proposed model was to move the middle school away from looping and instead move to one grade-based team per year. So a sixth grade team, a 7th grade team, and 8th grade team. As we looked at those models fit within the current space of MOMS, and they met the subject area requirements as under MYP. Having said that, Our proposal that we have made to Peter is that we would go into, if the board were to approve this tonight, we would start our school year with developing a team within the school, the two of us, a school counselor, an interventionist, a core academic teacher, and what we refer to as our mixed team, the arts, PE, health, design, a teacher from each of those teams, to fully flesh out what either of those, both of those proposals would look like, and see which one, after everything was said and done, we felt would best provide the absolute best opportunities and education for our students. And so that is how we have looked at it.
The timeline would be this committee would be formed at the beginning of the 2019 school year and take theoretically almost that school year to figure out.
That would be something that I would continue to collaborate with Peter about it. In the way we have discussed it at this time, we would hope that we would be able to have the actual model for what it would look like in terms of an educational model by late fall. But having said that, the logistics involved in staffing, licensure, because the licensure at an elementary level versus a middle level is different, MYP training, making sure, right now we have all of our 7th and 8th grade MYP units planned. We do not have MYP 6th grade units. We would need to make those pieces. And so that question, I know how incredible my faculty and staff are. I believe they can do anything, but I would want to see how those logistics played into it, the logistics that actually aren't within the building per se.
So from a timeline perspective, are we making a statement, do we know today whether or not that implementation would be planned for the 2020 school year or the 2021 school year?
Peter?
So I think there are a number of factors involved in deciding if you're looking at 1 year or 2 years. And I think there are benefits to each. In looking at the change that the district has been going through over the last years, staff, I think Chris mentioned this, the MOM staff are amazing, but it does take a lot of time to adjust to something new. So they're still kind of in the throes of new right now. One of the challenges of 2 years is you're extending the transition longer. So instead of moving to that in 1 year, 2 years extends that and makes it, in terms of the change process, it's a little bit more challenging. The benefit of 2 years, I think, is that it gives more time for people to not react to, oh my gosh, it's, fall is upon us already, and we've got a lot to do. This isn't the only thing we have to do. We have 1,000 other things that we're adjusting and adapting to as well. So this is not like the one change that is happening in our lives. So I think for that reason, two would make more sense.
And this might be a better question then. Will the timeline be included in the facilities master plan?
So I think that's probably something for us to decide. And we can discuss that as we go closer to the vote.
I think one of the benefits of a 2-year, and Peter has heard me say this at least 1,000,000 times, so I apologize if he gets to hear it again. The very first time Peter and I met, I told him I wanted 6th grade at MOMS. I have always wanted a 3-year middle school. And to me, the 6th graders coming to the middle school would be the greatest cause for celebration I could imagine. And I want to make sure for my faculty, my staff, and most importantly, the students, that transition to the middle school of 6th grade joins us. It is a cause for celebration and parades and just it being a joy-filled event. And I do feel that the 2 years would allow for that celebration piece more easily. I still think we could do it in a year, but I think 2 would allow for some of that excitement to build.
And I think not only is it a staff consideration and a planning consideration, but it's a community consideration as well.
Absolutely.
And how do we ensure that the appropriate mechanisms are in place for everybody to understand that?
Yep.
Any further questions for Chris from the board? Did you have anything more you wanted to add, or Amy?
Amy, do you have anything you want to add?
Sure. I think that another piece to really think about with the two-year plan is the first year, you're really honestly spending all of your time developing sort of the nuts and bolts of, we would need to develop a new schedule, we would need to think about all the logistics of licensing and teaching and all of those pieces. And then the second year would really give us an opportunity to welcome the sixth graders, have them come and visit, and be able to really develop a really nice extended sort of plan throughout the year to give all of the elementary schools opportunities to bring their sixth grade students. And I think, as Chris said, we could do it in 1 year, but if we want to do it really, really well, which has always been the experience that I've had in this district, I think 2 years would be best. It would be best for students, and I think it would be best for community. So it would give them opportunities to be able to come and visit our school and to learn a little bit about what their child's program would look like as well. And then have that opportunity to meet all of our staff and get their questions answered.
Yes, Mary.
Chris and Amy, do you foresee using the resources of the current sixth grade teachers in part of your planning, because they know them very well and they know what the curriculum that they've been working on?
Absolutely, yes.
Most definitely.
And do you feel like there's that support from the other sixth grade teachers that this is the right way to go? I don't want to make a division here.
I can't say that we to date have had many chances to talk with sixth grade teachers about it, because this issue hadn't been decided yet.
Yeah.
I would say that I am absolutely confident in the collaboration between the administrators, which would help facilitate that piece.
I think part of just talking about logistics and what kind of sways to 2 years as well is thinking about, for staff, it's, thinking about what the process is for a sixth grade teacher. It may be that a sixth grade teacher would move up to MUMS, or it may be that person may want to stay in fifth grade, and someone with licensure who's teaching fourth grade may be someone who wants to go to MUMS. So I think it's there in our past study, the one that we were referencing earlier, there was a lot of conversation from teachers around, so what is this process going to look like, and how, there's some stress involved in that. So we'd want to make sure that we're, having enough time to do that process well, and as Chris mentioned, make it a celebration.
All right, so I think that we have then a question before us about, do we want to dictate in the plan a timeline? Do we want to just say that that the plan calls for this, and if, to leave the flexibility with the administration that if everything's going swimmingly, they can do it in a year. If they change their mind, we can keep it that way. Or do we want it to be prescribed for a 2-year process? I don't know, just open it up for thoughts.
I would say that, leave it to the professionals, that the administration would certainly know better than I, if they're ready in 1 year or 2 years. So I would like to see it leave room for flexibility.
So I would take a motion then that we include in the facilities master plan, let's see, think about some wording here, the transition of sixth grade to MUMS. I would almost just say period, and then we can see what it looks like written out when we go to approve the final plan. But that, I think, gives the clarity that we need. I think that at least publicly I'm hearing a lot of support for a 2-year process, but not a lot of support for us necessarily prescribing that within the facilities master plan. Yes, Mary?
That statement, though, are we saying that in the 2-year plan there will be included, in the facilities master plan there will be included information on process of the sixth grade movement? so that it's not, we're not just saying in the facilities master plan, we're going to vote on this, move the 6th grade. Are we saying that in the plan, there will be some context and strategy on how to do that?
I think that would, yeah. I
Okay,
would
and so
see that,
then
yeah.
we vote then on the master plan with that context and strategy in place?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say is, so like the facilities master plan's a little bit based on facilities, but you're saying that what we do is need some space to also say, we like the plan itself, the 6th grade plan as opposed to the facilities master plan.
And how that facilities is going to, so, I mean, it's going to be very different master plan from a facilities perspective if that change is happening in a 12-month period or 24-month period. That's going to change the facilities master plan as well.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
So, right, if we're voting on this master plan, there's going to have to be additional language to what this needs to look like for those two things to be cohesive.
Yeah, it's within the timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, right, so tonight's vote is just broadly affirming our support, but I think to clarify for myself what Mary's asking, in the actual facilities master plan, we will have the administration talk amongst themselves quietly and tell us, yes, we want to do 1, or yes, we want
loudly.
to do 2
Yeah,
years.
and then it will be
And it will be
in the plan.
Okay.
Yes,
'Cause
very,
my-
very clearly in the plan.
Yeah, my only concern time-wise is that if I were a current 5th or 6th grade teacher, I would want to know what content and information and celebrations my students in
Yeah.
elementary school would need to have, and I would want to be able to plan accordingly for that this year. And so with the school year coming upon them quickly, I would just think it would be more respectful to have that information out sooner rather than later.
Further thoughts? I know we sort of did a big roundtable on this previously. Yeah.
I agree with her. I think that if you leave it too open, it would, if we have 2 years as sort of our guidepost, if you can do it in 1 year, well, it's not going to happen in 1 year.
Okay.
I mean, I just don't think that's, not that it can't, but it's just not, we're taking a very logical approach saying 2 years, and then why would we, what's our point of trying to do it in 1 year?
Speeding it.
Yeah.
I mean, the benefits that hopefully come out of it, but still.
Well, and I think nailing the timeline down now is helpful to us
Right.
in communication to the community, communication to everybody. It's much more helpful.
Okay. That's what we should have asked. What would you like? What would you like us to say?
Somebody like to form our conversation into a motion that we could put before us?
I move that we include I move that we include the movement of the 6th grade to mums in 2 years in the facilities master plan. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? All right, so just so everybody's clear, the vote is to include in the facilities master plan, which will be fleshed out in the plan that we will then vote on as a whole. But the idea that there would be a transition of 6th grade to mums within the 2-year horizon, period. Yeah. And that is going to be we're really going to include this in the master plan. Yeah. Everybody comfortable with that?
Do you want us to say like what year it would start, like for the 21-22 school year? Would that make it more clear for them?
Sure. Yeah.
Be
So
fall
that would-
2021.
Right, does that make it more clear? Okay.
Okay. You okay with that, Victoria?
Yep.
Okay. So we really have a motion to include in the master plan, a plan to transition the 6th grade to a 3-grade middle school by the fall of 2021, with details to be fleshed out within the plan, which will also be approved by the board. Everybody okay with that? That's okay? All right, hearing no further questions or discussion, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? All right, well, again, as I said after our last conversation on this, thank you very much. And I think that we're definitely helping to clarify, I think, for ourselves, for the administration, and for the public as we move forward. So obviously, integral to that is the facilities master plan. We discussed the capacity study, and we discussed having that take place over the next year. I think that the sixth grade makes that capacity study all the more, that decision need to be made, so that the capacity study could take that into account as it moves forward. We don't have any further presentation on this. It was more just to continue to follow a program of being clear with our decision on what's going in the master plan. So do people have any further questions? What we had sort of agreed to include was to engage some expertise over the next year to look at the capacity of our schools, speak to us about what that capacity is based on, up-to-date, real-life information and usage, and provide us information that we need by next summer in order for this board to make decisions about going forward on its footprint and capacity.
And that no changes will be made before the 21-22 school year. Is that part? That's what's in this paper. Was that what was on our?
Yeah, and following the sort of the decision-making matrix. That was just more of a natural result than including in that. Yes, Jim?
And the capacity study was to look at all schools?
Yes. Well, really, we're looking at the elementary schools, because we're really not making any changes at the high school. And the middle school's basically been studied to make sure it can accommodate what we're talking about.
So, I'm still confused on the capacity, honestly. I know I spoke sort of against the study before. And I voted for it, but I'm still a little confused. If you take out one grade out of every elementary school, okay, that frees a large amount of capacity. So I don't understand what we're going to get other than sort of a percentage from somebody, or what, I guess I don't, what are we going to get that's going to help us both make a decision and clarify to the community as to what this is telling us. So, sorry, I'm still stuck on that.
So I think there are a lot of complicating factors in looking at facilities. There's the age of the building, there's the amount of work that it needs, and we had our initial number, and if you remember, that number doubled when we looked at what the real cost was for bringing our buildings up to level, that $60 million number that after we got our initial school dude report, which was about half that. So part of the study is looking at building condition, it's looking at transportation and modeling transportation. I think that was in our both community forums that came up quite a lot, is so what does this really mean? So we're being asked to look at this hypothetical reality, but we want to know kind of what does this look and feel like. So part of what the consultant would do would be to look at capacity in all of our schools, would give us information about the building condition beyond where we are now, to look at, specifically what are the real costs, and would then, really kind of model and give some recommendations around options that the board might have.
And if I'm recalling, implicit in that, or explicit, was not just current capacity, but then based on what we see as the ideal model school, where is there the best opportunity to create that within the buildings that we have? So it's just also capacity for the
word just to seem, it conjures in me a much more narrow approach, and obviously I guess I'm missing sort of the big picture on what capacity study means, okay? I guess I wasn't
Well, and maybe we want to make that more explicit in the motion in terms of.
I think we should.
Is there a better word?
Probably.
Maybe, yeah.
No, but I mean, you know, when I thought at one point capacity and utilization, those are sort of similar type concepts. They aren't exactly the same, but I mean, when we did the schools 25 years ago, that was certainly a part of utilization was a big issue. I don't think we ever talked about the word capacity, as I remember. But I just want to make sure that, I understand what you're saying, okay, and what you're saying too, Peter, but the capacity, to me, we need another word to describe what we're looking for, I think. Maybe I'm just being really hard on this, but.
Maybe
No, I
Bruce?
think you're right, it's sort of like, how many people could fit into this building?
That's what a capacity
Well, and
study.
the ideal schoolroom in a second grader in this school versus this school, and how do we, but that's not really capacity, I don't think.
And a big part of it is also, I mean, the board's talked a lot about equity and resources, and that is a big part of that analysis, is looking at the flow of resources and maximizing that to some
I
degree.
know, but that's part of my hang-up on the word capacity and what I
Right.
sort of came
Yeah.
from last meeting,
Does Bruce
because
have the word? Do you have the word we should use?
Well, I would, in my limited view, I would call it a feasibility study rather than capacity, because you're looking at much more than just the physical number of people you're going to put in a building. You're looking at what does it take to make it a 21st century school? What does it take to provide a clean, safe environment for the students? So it's more of a feasibility of how those buildings stack up against each other to assess that.
Chip?
yeah, that's not, I mean, that, you know,
Okay.
says it better to me than capacity.
Right, well, you know, the word, the instructions within the facilities master plan can use whatever, no single word, it'll be a paragraph describing what it is that we want to see.
Right.
And I think the words utilization, feasibility, and capacity are all, you know, good to put in there. So this is in, you know, this is again, we had a long conversation about this, seem to have support for it, but maybe we need to do a little wordsmithing while we're here. Victoria, you got the solution right now?
I don't know, I'm gonna let you finish your thought. What solution we're looking for? I was just gonna raise the issue that there's been a lot of discussion about capacity, and I felt like, I mean, not capacity, about equity. And I felt like at the last meeting, going into the meeting, I felt that we had a pretty common definition for equity. I felt like we've talked about a lot what that means. And then at the last meeting, I felt like that definition kind of fell apart, or maybe we were more, our public face was more unsure as to what we meant by equity. And so I thought it would be worth having a discussion, almost, you know, what is the board's definition? Or can we define equity, or do we want to define equity? So that we're all, so I think the public asked, well, what do you mean by equity? And we all, or at least my understanding was, we all had a common understanding of what equity was in this instance, but I'm not sure that that's true.
My memory is telling me that our retreat last summer, we talked about how the administrators had come up with a definition, an ACSD administrator definition, and that you had quoted it to us. I don't know that I've seen it posted anywhere, but I feel like when, at that point, we're all like, oh yeah, that makes sense, there's already one that's been agreed upon. So maybe I know later on we're talking about the retreat planning, but perhaps we can bring that up as, you know, seeing it and including that as the board definition as well. Does that make sense?
Just, I think if equity is one of the lenses that is guiding us through the process in the feasibility study, we should have.
There's a certain things that we are thinking in mind of what we think this school should have, but then there's the definition. I think those two coupled will be valuable in the plan.
Sure, we can take up, we probably should never stop taking up what equity is. And I think maybe we should continue that at our retreat, that'd be fine. Yeah, I mean, you know, we all, I think, have in our minds, I sort of look at it more visually. You've all heard me talk about the kids in the boxes looking over the fence. Other people have said, well, it's, making sure every child has the resources they need to succeed. I think we've really kind of gone under that theory as well. It's kind of a big abstract term.
Here's the admin equity lens right there.
Right, so the one that I think we had all sort of talked about previously was ACSD will ensure the allocation of resources as necessary to establish a foundation of instructional experiences and learning opportunities so all students can become principled, knowledgeable, and caring citizens. So a longer way of a little more educational, a little more specific in there. And I think that's one that we've talked about a lot.
Did you get that, Suzanne?
No.
Can we send it to you? It seems like it's important, if we're going to talk about this as a definition.
I got the first part of it.
And I think, as I recollect, what I always liked about that one is that it really does, in part, speak specifically about resources, and that equity is not necessarily equal as we go forward. But just to get us back to our study, our currently unnamed study, what we need is a motion that says that the facilities master plan should, or will include a study to take place over the 1920 school year of the ACSD elementary schools to understand their utilization, their capacity. I'd entertain any other words to throw in there.
Condition.
Design and potential operational considerations aligned.
I'm going to just let Mary start from the beginning.
Move to fund and conduct a one-year comprehensive capacity study that will include recommendations on design, capacity, utilization, and potential operational considerations, ensuring alignment to our vision of equity.
Can I hear a second?
Can I just,
Yes.
you put capacity in there twice, could you put the word feasibility?
Well, the title was capacity,
Oh,
so then
okay.
I just repeated that in there,
Okay.
yeah.
Mary, can you send that to me, please?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd happily second that very
All right, so
eloquently
it's been
stated.
moved by Mary, seconded by Jen. Do anybody like to hear that again before we have a vote on it?
Sure. Fund and conduct a one-year comprehensive capacity study that will include recommendations on design, capacity, utilization, and potential operational considerations aligned to our vision, ensuring alignment to our vision of equity.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further questions or discussion? I think that implicit in that was really to include in the facilities master plan.
I'll add that.
Hearing no further questions, no further discussion. All those in favor of the motion before us, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? And great, appreciate that. Appreciate the discussion. Okay, a non-action item, but I just wanted to discuss with the board. We've had a lot of questions at our public forums. People have also submitted questions via email, and it tends to take place kind of offline, out of the public view, and it seemed kind of an underused effort. And so I was chatting with Mary about it one day, and she said, well, in a lot of public processes she's been through, really, you put on the website these questions and answers, and basically have an FAQ, a frequently asked questions section. And I just wanted to see if the board would be in favor of that. And I guess the process I would foresee is A, putting it on the website, B, having a function, it may be a function as simple as an email, where folks can submit questions, and C, to kind of have a small ad hoc committee to sort of bounce the answers off of before they go up live. And that ad hoc committee, I would just suggest be me as chair, Jen as chair of the public engagement committee, and then Mary, because it was her idea. And with Peter acting as advisor.
See how that happens?
What about she can tag someone else?
There you go.
Yes.
All good.
But Lorraine is your assistant. Because you're vice president, aren't you part of the
But
executive, or what we call the executive board? Is it back up?
Doesn't
matter.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it
Yeah,
small and
doesn't matter.
highly, as efficient as possible to get answers done. But I was sort of feeling like, gee, I really shouldn't just be answering all of these things by
Right.
myself without bouncing them off of people, so I've sort of kind of hit here
I
and
think it's
there.
right to get a group.
Yeah.
If questions come up, as they have over the last 6 months or so, really, from the public, including questions like from Mr. Cox before about something that we decided, we acted to answer his question, basically. But I guess some of the frequently asked questions would be those that we don't come up with, and we would add those to potential, because there's different timelines to some of these questions.
Yes.
Some of them were very nebulous to some degree, and some of them were, when are you going to move the 6th grade? When's my school going to close?
Right.
Okay, so to speak.
And it's not, I mean, at least the way I would recommend thinking about it, it's not that you answer every verbatim question. It's that you ensure that there's a place in which
Right.
folks can review these questions that are being submitted, and it's our job to ensure that those questions that are being asked, those answers are found there.
Right.
Right? And so you might, in answering one, in this paragraph, answer 3 questions, right? So I do think, and it should be okay to say, here's a question that we know we're getting a lot, and the answer right now is we don't know.
Okay.
And that's okay.
I think that's
Here's when you
really
can-
important.
Yeah, here's when you can, here's where we think we might have a better idea. And being comfortable in saying that right now, this decision has not been made. And that would probably alleviate a lot of misunderstanding in the community, just by saying we don't have an answer yet.
Right. I think
that's
an
important.
example of that would be, people have asked about transportation, and what's going to be the impact on school buses? Well, we don't have any of that information at this point, but I think it's important to make it public that if people really want to know that, they need to know that we don't know, and that but what is going on to answer it, and sort of what the timeline is. Yeah. Yes, Jen?
Just housekeeping type stuff. This would be housed on the ACSD website, I'm assuming probably.
On that tab, yeah, that-
Facilities Master
yeah.
Plan tab is. So currently, our friend Caitlin, Dr. Steele, has been very
Nice.
generous with her time and helping to post. She basically has posted everything that's on there. So I just don't know, just if we, informing this subcommittee, at least keeping in mind that there will be some administrative support needed, and whether that can be discussed, offline, depending on who's has some bandwidth to do that.
Is there-
or-
I mean, if I'm part of this group, I can add things to
You
the
can just pop
website.
it up.
Yeah, I can just add
Okay.
them.
Once it's created.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to add more work to people, that's my only concern, and I don't want to volunteer anybody that may not want this added task, and me showing up.
I think I just said I do it.
I'll happily do it if you ask me.
And you can set it up so that the questions get submitted to the committee so that you can deliberate whether or not to.
Yeah, we might go as simple as just an email that
Yeah.
comes to me or something.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, as opposed to something high-tech that's going to fail.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, but it doesn't have to, but it doesn't go to Caitlin's box.
Yes.
Right, no, she would just help, she was just helping to actually edit the website in the past.
So, anybody have any questions about that, any objections? Well, we'll move forward to get that out there, hopefully by maybe middle of next week. Get up and running. I've
Great,
written a lot of responses, and I'll sort of collate them together for us to go over.
great.
Peter?
Yes.
Just relative to that, the press is here often, and I think having access somehow to that access point, our website, and that as to how to get there would be good in whatever thing you write about it. I think it would be helpful because,
Jen?
The link.
yeah, the link, I just think, because not everybody sort of thinks of that first off, and that's going to be an access, and that's important that we get it out there, thank you.
Yeah, and I think maybe we can communicate once it's up there, through some of
Let them know
the
it
school
exists.
communication channels and the steering committee, maybe we can resurrect that distribution list. Yeah.
Put it on the ASC, put it on the website.
Right, but now we're saying like email people to tell them that it's there.
Yeah.
Kind of push it right to people and let them know that
Well,
that's.
both.
So,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes, Betty?
Are we also considering people who may not have access to the website or internet or computers? And
Yeah.
How do we get that
We're not.
out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's always a great question.
We make the FAQs available for the, like on a,
Offices.
every 3 weeks, make the FAQ available in print for the kids to take home.
Yep.
So you
Yeah.
would be able to access those.
A lot of schools don't even send stuff.
Well, no, we can just say that they're available. We'll update them every couple of weeks and available at the central
For those
office.
who
They can print them
want,
out.
We could also target those families that don't have access, so we have email addresses and other, we often have an opt-in, so if a family wants to get paper, they can. So we can use that too.
Yeah, that's good. All right.
I have one question.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Talking about people accessing the website, do we have any way of knowing how many people in the community actually check into the website?
We do,
How
yeah.
utilized it is?
Yep.
That would be helpful.
I don't know the number
Yeah.
for that tab right now.
We really want to up that,
You want that tab though, you don't want
yeah.
the schedule or something.
No, you don't want the main page or.
No.
Schedule does get a lot of hits.
Yeah.
Make it easy and let them, so people know that they can frequent it and get on.
Yeah.
Okay. So our final item is to talk about our retreat, which for those of you who didn't see the email, we have moved from the 19th to the 26th. Part of that is because we have David Epstein coming to join us to kind of talk about facilities, the process that we will need to go through. And I've heard him speak before on this issue, very knowledgeable. Hopefully he'll address our concerns when he talks to us, but also bring your questions. And so we'll be looking at, so that'll be on the 26th, 5 to 9. Probably do like we have done in previous retreats, some small group conversation and come together and sort of flesh it out. And, the retreat is not a time where we're taking any action on anything. It's really just to talk and plan, answer some questions. I think maybe we'll, when the agenda committee gets together next week, we'll talk a little bit more about other items that we might have on there. It's usually a time for us to sort of say, these are our priorities for the next year. And get those squared away, although I suspect that they'll reflect back onto the work we're doing with the facilities master plan. But again, from the 19th to the 26th, location TBD, like to have something a little less sort of formal than this so we can have small group conversation and have a comfortable, we're going to be there for a while, so have it be a comfortable setting as well. And we will arrange food, which will be there from 5 to 9. Anyway, so stay tuned. Again, 19th canceled, moved to the 26th. If anybody has sort of thoughts that they'd like to send along to those of us who are going to try to come up with the agenda, email me. But I imagine we'll stay pretty focused on the facilities master plan work, as well as goals and dreams for the coming year.
Sounds good.
All right. Any other business tonight that come before the board? If not, yes, Mary.
We've heard a couple of members who are in the audience talk about their part in the engagement process. I don't know, we haven't really talked about how we're going to pull them in. Is that something we can talk about it possibly at the board, at the retreat?
Yeah.
I think it's important we do that. They are meeting as a smaller group. And,
So I think, I would say definitely, we need to have that conversation. We're sort of following the steps that we laid out during our spring community forums, or, that was sort of a public engagement time, and then as we let everybody know that we would spend the summer working on the facilities master plan. We're running a little behind schedule. We are, after all, plowing a new field, gonna hit some rocks along the way and plow a little slowly. But yes, that's sort of the next step. Yeah, thank you.
Forgot.
Yes.
And David has a lot of experience, I believe, with community outreach.
Yes,
He's got a really strong lens in that area, so.
FAQ.
What's that?
I said, once we answer that, it can be an FAQ, because
Yes. Yeah, very important. All right, great. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
We will see you all on the 26th.